Hi everyone, it's Miss Conceison here with your first chapter. So I decided to do A Sky Full of Stars by Linda Williams Jackson. I'm going to read you the inside cover just so that you get a sense of what it's about. It's historical fiction. So 13-year-old Rosalie Carter had a chance to go north with her aunt, but she stayed in Mississippi instead. Did she make the right choice? As racial tension mounts, Rose feels hopeless. Torn between the opinions of Shorty, a boy in her class who wants to change things by meeting violence with violence, and her best friend Hallelujah, who believes in the power of peaceful protest, Rose doesn't see a way forward. But when she decides to help Aunt Ruthie start her own business, Rose begins to understand how she can make a difference. Life might be easier in the North, but Mississippi is her home, and that's worth fighting for. Readers will be transported to the 1950s in this captivating novel that seamlessly blends a fictional portrait of the life of an African-American girl and factual events from a pivotal era in American history. So I'm going to start the first chapter. It takes place in Stillwater, Mississippi in 1955. This is Monday, November 1st. My grandpa Papa used to say that gratitude was the key to happiness. If that was true, then I would never be happy. With the chill of November upon us and all of Mr. Robinson's cotton picked clean off of every stalk in his fields, I was finally able to attend school like my younger brother Fred Lee and my older cousin Queen. But instead of school, where I should have been that beautiful fall day, I was cooped up in Mrs. Robinson's kitchen, contemplating whether I should clean up the mess left behind by her cackling church club or pretend I had gone mad and add to it. Knowing the latter was impossible to actually get away with without my grandma, Ma Pearl, slapping me into the middle of next week, one after the other I held Mrs. Robinson's fancy gold-rimmed plates over the empty bucket she had given me and scraped off leftovers. At least our hogs could be grateful for the slop. Down the hall, happy hums flowed from a content Ma Pearl as she dusted every item in Mrs. Robinson's already spotless bedroom. Of course she was happy. While Papa was on his return trip from Blytheville, Arkansas, where he'd attended his brother Charlie's funeral, she had seized the opportunity to keep me out of school for the day. Had it been left to her, I would be kept out of school not just one day, but every day. A 7th grade education is more'n enough, she'd said back in August when she tried to make me quit school for good. So this morning when she yelled, "Get up, gal, get dressed, you helping me this morning," I knew she didn't mean baking biscuits or frying eggs. I had heard her the night before complaining about how she didn't want to have to clean up after Miss Robinson and that nasty bunch of womans tomorrow. So there I was in her place, cleaning up after Mrs. Robinson and that nasty bunch of womans who were supposedly having Bible study. Laughter exploded in the parlor. Didn't these ladies have anything better to do on a Monday afternoon than giggle? There I was, scraping practically full meals off plates, throwing good food to hogs, and they had nothing better to do at 1 in the afternoon than laugh? Well, Bible study, supposedly, from 10 till noon, then chit-chat over coconut cake and coffee for the rest of the day. And their husbands still came home to a clean house and a full meal. Like my good friend Hallelujah Jenkins always said, if they'd spend a little more time with the good Lord on Sunday, like colored folks did, then they wouldn't have to make up for it on Monday. I stomped into the dining room and grabbed another stack of plates. One of them lay a barely eaten ham and cheese sandwich. By my estimate, 2 bites had been taken. I peered out of the dining room toward the hallway for any sign of Ma Pearl. Chatter flowed cheerfully from the parlor, so no need to worry about the cackling church club. I placed the stack of plates back on the table and snatched the sandwich off the top one. My teeth sank into it. Lord, it was good. The ham was nothing like what our poor slaughtered hogs supplied us. It was tender, easy to chew, and beyond delicious. And the cheese? A flavor I'd never experienced. Slightly smoky, almost heavenly. I took another bite of the sandwich, closed my eyes, and savored every chew. I knew I should have stopped after 2 bites, but the sandwich begged me to finish. I didn't realize how hungry I was until I'd taken the last bite. I hadn't eaten since 6 o'clock, and then only biscuits. Fred Lee and Queen had eaten all the eggs before I got a chance to even get to the kitchen. And for that, I fault Ma Pearl, seeing I had to take extra care in dressing myself to ensure I was halfway decent enough to cross the Robinson threshold. Another partially eaten sandwich taunted me from a plate. I resisted by stacking other plates on top of it, but my growling stomach betrayed me, forcing me to put the plates back down and grab the half-eaten sandwich. My mouth opened wide and my teeth sank deep. I couldn't stop myself from moaning because this one, too, was undeniably delicious. "Rose Lee Carter!" came a whispered shout. I froze. I didn't bother turning all the way around. From the corner of my eye, I spotted Ma Pearl's massive frame blocking the doorway to the dining room. My heart raced faster than a scared rabbit's. How could I have been foolish enough to let Ma Pearl sneak up on me? "Gal, what the devil is you doing?" I couldn't answer because my mouth was full, nor could I swallow because a lump filled my throat. So there I stood, my mouth stuffed with sandwich, my body stiff with shame, as I waited for my grandma to storm into Mrs. Robinson's dining room and knock me to kingdom come. When I didn't answer her, Ma Pearl charged into the room like a raging bull. She stopped inches from my face. With her nostrils flaring, she swept the remainder of the sandwich from my hand. It landed on the gleaming wood floor. I shut my eyes and braced myself for a slap. But instead of a slap, I got a plate shoved onto my hands. One by one, Ma Pearl snatched them off the table. When she spoke, she kept her voice low but firm. "I didn't bring you over here to act like no darn fool." She began piling the dishes in my arms. "If that woman wanted you to eat these leftover sandwiches, she'd give you a bag." She paused and frowned at me. "Did she give you a bag?" I managed to force the lump of ham, cheese, and bread down my throat. "No, ma'am," I muttered. "What did she give you?" "Bucket," I said quietly, my eyes darting from the floor to Ma Pearl's gaze, then back to the floor again. "So why is you eating this food?" "Because it's perfectly good food these ungrateful women just played over because they don't know what it's like to be hungry." Ma Pearl gestured toward the table. "This food meant for the hogs, not for the humans. The hogs ain't the only something hungry on this place. Hogs shouldn't eat ham anyway. They are ham." When I still said nothing, Ma Pearl's giant hand whacked me on the shoulder. I stumbled sideways. "Quit acting like a trifling fool," she said. "I feed you at home." My shoulder throbbed with pain, but I didn't dare raise my hand to rub it. Besides, I needed both hands to ensure I didn't drop Mrs. Robinson's precious plates. Anticipating another powerful lick from Ma Pearl's heavy hand, my body grew stiffer, scared to breathe. But instead of smacking me again, she turned on her heels and stormed from the dining room. Her huffing seemed to ring in my ears until she reached Mrs. Robinson's bedroom at the end of the hall. Happy it didn't get knocked to the floor, my body relaxed a bit, but shame burned in it like an August sun. Knowing I had no choice, I swallowed that shame and carried the armful of plates to the kitchen. After all the plates and saucers had been scraped clean, I returned to the dining room to collect the lipstick-stained half-full cups of tea and coffee. Near one of the cups lay a beige, lace-trimmed handkerchief. The swirly blue letters, KJM, told me it belonged to Mrs. Jameson, K. Marie Jameson, who was known around Stillwater for having her initials monogrammed on almost everything she owned, with the J always prominent and large. I suppose that was a privilege of having a husband who owned a clothing store. I stood there for a moment and debated whether to leave the handkerchief on the table or take it to the parlor. Since Mrs. Jameson was known for having a persistent runny nose, she probably needed that handkerchief. But I reasoned that a rich lady like that should have more than one handkerchief in her purse. After making a couple of trips from the dining room to the kitchen, I realized how silly it was to leave the handkerchief lying on the table. I snatched it up and headed to the parlor. Outside the parlor entry, I froze. How foolish would I look interrupting Mrs. Robinson and her guests over a handkerchief? I decided to drop it in the hallway and allow Mrs. Jameson to assume she'd dropped it. But what if Mrs. Robinson came out and found the handkerchief lying there? She would probably blame me for not doing a good job of cleaning up. Even though it was a simple one, the decision swirled in me like a storm. I clenched the handkerchief in my fist. I knew what I had to do. I had to interrupt the cackling church club and give Mrs. Jameson her handkerchief. I took a deep breath, released it slowly, then stepped toward the parlor entry. And the second I did, the N-word slammed my ears so hard that it almost knocked me to the floor. All right, so this is a good one if you're interested in historical fiction, racial equality, kinging and nonviolence. This book is a good one for you, and hope you all are keeping on reading. All right, talk to you later.